This is my Alpinestars Supertech R10 helmet. I have worn this thing on the street, I've worn it for track days, and I have now officially worn it during a race. I have used this thing everywhere you'd expect to see a track day helmet, and I'm officially ready to answer the question, is it worth its eye-watering price tag? Because this thing's $1,150 for the base version.
Mamma mia!
Let's get the specs out of the way first. We've got a shell made of 4 layers: aramid fibers, fiberglass, carbon composite, and then the fancy woven carbon outer shell. They claim a 220-degree horizontal field of view and a 57-degree vertical FOV. There's 11 vents, most of which are active up front and a few passive vents out the back. Then the safety certs include the ECE 2206 so that you know it's actually safe, the DOT cert which says that yes, this is in fact a helmet-shaped object, and then it meets the FIM standards, which means that it's ready to race.
Speaking of which, I still need to fix my Super Duke. Hashtag KTM things, am I right?
The helmet itself weighs in at 3.55 pounds, has an intermediate oval shape, comes with a bag, smoked and clear visors, 1 pin lock which I have installed on my clear visor, a handful of chin and breath curtains, and a bunch of visor tear-offs so that you can play pretend MotoGP. Right out of the box, it's clear that going fast is the only thing that this helmet wants, and it's f***ing disgusting. I mean, to see the difference, all you gotta do is put it up against another sport-oriented helmet that claims it's about going quick. This is my Shoei X-15 that I bought a little bit before I got my hands on the Supertech R10, and there are plenty of nods on here to the sport-oriented rider. First and foremost, you got the spoiler off the back here with some wings on it that let a little bit of air through and probably help stabilize it a little bit. Then you look at the Supertech R10 and you're immediately going to start noticing some things. First off, you've got these big wings off the side. You have a massive spoiler off the back. Sure, Alpinestars does include what they call their street spoiler, but if you're buying this helmet, they know this is the one you want, and so they just stuck it on there from the factory because they're like, yeah, we get it. We know what we're about. There's even the construction of the chin bar and the shape of the neck cutout here, and the fact that the locking mechanism engages automatically every single time you close the helmet, so there's no way on God's green earth you're opening this thing without engaging with this metal tab here. It makes it a little bit cumbersome on the street with a glove, but again, this is a track day helmet. Now throughout this video here, we are going to be comparing the Supertech R10 to my X-15 here because I want to see whether or not this thing really is worth spending a little bit more cash over something like this, which is basically the industry standard in high quality go fast buckets. Last thing I need to let you guys know is that Alpinestars did give me this helmet as part of the Aprilia Creator GP. I did not have to buy this thing. They sent it over to me so that I could wear it while I was on the racetrack. And by the way, there are codes in this video that you can enter down below to get yourself entered to win some cool prizes, especially some stuff from Alpinestars. Codes like this one right here. Now, because Alpinestars did send me this helmet, you could consider this video sponsored, and you're welcome to take everything I have to say with a grain of salt. However, Alpinestars does not get to see the video before it goes live. They have no creative control over what I can say, and there's going to be some stuff in here that Alpinestars is not going to love. With that said, though, let's get out on the street and see how it functions as a street lid.
So I figured since we might be talking about the new king of helmets, let's ride around on what I consider the king of naked bikes, the Super Duke. There's also a reason why I chose the loudest motorcycle that I own, and that is because I wanted to give you guys an idea of what it sounds like to be in this helmet. Now, it is worth pointing out that my microphone is not going to let you know exactly what it sounds like, but you are going to be hearing a general idea of the amount of wind that's hitting me in the face. Now, Alpinestars goes a long way in their copy for this helmet to talk about how aerodynamic this thing is. And I have no reason to doubt that, but what that does contribute to, despite having some like lift benefits and stuff on a racetrack, is a helmet that's actually really quiet when it comes to wind on the street. Now that we're picking up the pace a little bit, you can hear what it's like in the helmet. And at about 100 miles an hour, Yeah, it's noisy, but it's always noisy on a motorcycle at 100 miles an hour. What is really impressive to me, especially as somebody who's edited a lot of vlog audio, is how smooth and how laminar that wind is going over my head. There's not a lot of buffeting and there's not a lot of like weird shakes and spots that cause whistles. One of the things that drives me nuts about my X-15 is the big scoop on the front of that helmet just whistles like nobody's business. Comfort-wise, this helmet is really nice on the street. However, it is worth pointing out that it's tight. Even when the pads break in, it's a little bit on the tighter side because it's meant to be on a racetrack. This is meant to be a tight lid. So even though it's tight, you want to be getting right on your sizing. If you're a large in a Shoei, you're a large here too. Best thing I could say about this helmet on the street is that field of view that we talked about being 220 degrees around the side and 57 degrees vertically. This is one of the best helmets I've ever worn in terms of actually being able to see where I'm going. I've never had such a clear and unobstructed view of what's going on around me, especially vertically. And that is super handy, especially if you decide to get into this, full tuck situation right here. You can really see where you're going. However, I do want to point out the fact that if you're going to try to mount like a cardo or something to this helmet, there's not really a lot of good places to do it. But while we're talking about mounting stuff to helmets, let me tell you about something that I've mounted to every single one of the helmets I wear, and that is this. This is my brake-free helmet brake light, and it's a really unique piece of kit because let's say, for example, you're riding something like this Super Duke, which has a quick shifter. You could downshift from like 6th gear down to 1st and go from 120 miles an hour down to 20 miles an hour without even touching the brakes, and you can do it pretty quickly because of the way this thing engine brakes. Nobody's going to know what's going on behind you unless you pull that lever, and I have a bad habit where when I'm using the quick shifter, I don't always grab the brakes. That's where this thing helps me out a little bit. This senses any form of deceleration on the bike. So whether you grab the brakes, whether you downshift, or whether you just roll off the throttle, this will light up, letting everybody behind you know what's going on. This thing will mount up to any helmet out there in seconds. And all you got to do to check one of these out is click that link down in the description below where you can get $10 off your order by using the code SPITE or Spite's Corner. I don't remember. It's on the screen. A huge shout out to Break Free for supporting the channel and for supporting the Aprilia Creator GP. And if you made it all the way through this ad, here's a code for you. You can actually win some free Break Frees. So yeah, go enter that code down below. Get yourself entered to win. Or pick one up. Again, link down in the description. Let's get back in the garage.
Now, if you take this helmet from the street to the racetrack, the performance only improves. Think about it like the wings on a modern motorcycle. Sure, they're really good looking on the side of the road and they look pretty cool when you're going down your favorite back road, but once you start going fast, like properly fast at a racetrack, that's when you start to see the benefits. The exact same principle applies to the Supertech R10. For example, when you're going through the right-hander at COTA, for me, that's about 100 miles an hour when I'm exiting it. It's this super long sweeping right-hander, and I'm leaned way off the motorcycle like this, looking deep through the corner. When I'm turning like that, these wings on here are adding so much stability to the helmet. It feels so comfortable when I'm leaned off the side of the bike, going fast. This is about the best thing I've ever worn on a racetrack. And not only have I worn this, but I've worn my X-15 right here, and I've worn this, which is my X-14. This is by far and away the best helmet I've ever worn while going very quickly.
The R10 does have a secret weapon with a pretty goofy name. It's what they call their A-head system.
You've heard me talk about it before, but basically all it is a piece of plastic with a bit of adjustability that allows you to set where the helmet rests on your head. This may sound simple and it may look weird on my head on video, but the key is when you get into a full tuck, because the helmet is sitting higher on your head, you can see further down the track. This is especially helpful in a corner, and I can't stress enough how cool this idea really is.
Now let's talk about some of the drawbacks on this helmet. First and foremost, just take a listen. That's a pretty creaky helmet. Now, to be fair, this helmet also creaks, but not nearly as much. The bits and bobs that are stuck onto this helmet here, they're not actually really held into place with much more than push tabs and 3M adhesive. There's a point though. You want these parts that could potentially twist your head in an accident to, instead of twisting your head, you want them to basically explode and tear away from the helmet so that the shell can actually absorb the impact the way it's supposed to. And to prove to you that there's actually some solid build quality here, the mechanism is one of the best I've ever used on any helmet. It's really easy to get the actual shield off and on, and there's 1,000 different detents. The Shoei doesn't have nearly as many. What is a genuine black mark for this helmet though is not something that I've just seen on mine, it's something I've seen on multiple helmets, including my buddy's who works at TJ's behind the parts counter. He has an R10 and it has the exact same problem. Here where the pads, the chin pads actually meet the back of the helmet, they're supposed to tuck in and lock into these little tabs, and you can see mine don't do that, because the tabs, both the right and the left, they're right here. These things are essentially hot glued into place. There's some spikes that are supposed to help hold it in place, but clearly it didn't work. To be clear, this helmet still works perfectly, even though these tabs, one of them's on the floor and one of them's on the table. However, at the price that Alpinestars is asking, all of the plastic bits need to be a part of this helmet. Now, I have talked to people at A-Stars, and this is a thing that you can reach out to them and warranty the helmet for, but I shouldn't have to. Now, as we start wrapping up my thoughts on the Supertech R10, I'm gonna make a statement here that some people may hear and think is cope, and then some of the guys who get what I'm saying, you've probably heard it before. Race gear does not last as long as street gear. Think about it like slicks for a race. They're designed to last the entire race length plus one lap, especially in MotoGP, or an exhaust. Your race exhaust may get you 30 or 40 races if you're lucky, but a street exhaust is gonna last as long as the motorcycle does. I see the Supertech R10 here as basically a race part. It's going to give me as much performance as it possibly can and sacrifice everything else to do it. When it comes to going fast, the R10 is so much better than my X-15. However, if I'm buying a helmet that I want to wear every single day of the week, the nod does go to the X-15, because this right here, this is my X-14 that I bought when I went independent like 4 years ago. And it still feels as good in the hand today as it did when I pulled it out of the box for the first time. Think about it like this. The Supertech R10 is the Supertech R boot of helmets. And this is the SMX6. When you look at these things side by side, there's very little aesthetic difference between these two. This thing looks about as fast as the Supertech R boot here. However, this thing has the little inner booty insert thing, which I don't know why this exists, but it's really cool and it feels great on a racetrack. The boot itself is super comfortable and flexible. It has a better latching system and a zipper up the side. This thing right here is just designed for everyday street use, and it has absorbed so much more punishment than it has any right to. This is the helmet you get when you want the most possible performance you can possibly get out of a helmet. They just don't have the normal guy helmet yet.